just to let you know, due to personal circumstances, ICANN CEO will not be able to join for today's session. He really wanted to be here, but he's not here. Actually, he left. But I would like to introduce, and many of, I'm sure, board chair Tripti Sinha. Tripti, if I may give floor to you for welcome.
Thank you, Cyranish. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome all the fellows and the new NextGeners, as this is a very important program that ICANN offers. And it offers it for a couple of different reasons. One is capacity building, as we have to continue to strengthen the capacity of our community and all the different constituents that are engaged in the ICANN ecosystem, and also the next generation. And the next generation is very important because as we are in a technical field that is constantly evolving and innovating and growing, and it's you, the next generation, that is most in touch with what's current in technology. So we would love for you to be here, to be engaged, to share your thoughts. And I will say that the last couple of days I have attended your presentations. I was not able to come to the room, but I did attend them remotely from my office. And I've been very impressed with the topics that you've been researching and studying, the approaches you've taken, very unique approaches. And to the fellows as well, just your engagement in your respective constituents. It's important. It's important because we need the perspectives of diverse people. We need the perspectives of the global community. And that is what strengthens ICANN, and that is what keeps us moving forward. So with that, again, I welcome you. Both these programs have been longstanding. I think the Fellows goes back to 2007, the NextGen to 2014. So these are mature programs, and we look forward to your contributions, and you being members of this community. So a warm welcome from me on behalf of my colleagues on the board, and I will now turn the floor back to Cyranish.
Thank you, Tripti. And many of you know Leon Sanchez. He's role model for me personally as a fellow at my time, but he's also a role model for many of us. For those newcomers who are coming here, they definitely see how far they can go. He's representing us, and not only us, but in particular fellows in the board. Leon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Cyranish. It's an honor to be here, and I'm very honored and humbled by your words. Thank you for the way you refer to me. And now, if you don't mind, I would like to switch to Spanish to take advantage of the interpretation services and also to be able to speak in my mother tongue, and also honoring Spain, which we are in. Bien. Pues agradecerles a todos y a todas por estar aquí. Esta es mi sesión favorita, sin duda. Es la sesión que más disfruto. Es la sesión que me hace regresar a mis orígenes. Es la sesión en la que tengo la oportunidad de chuparles un poco de juventud y recuperar energía para seguir sirviendo a nuestra comunidad. Y quiero agradecerles por el trabajo que hacen como fellows. Quiero agradecerles la dedicación que imprimen a el programa, la diversidad que traen a nuestra comunidad al ser parte de este programa. Y espero que su estancia y su uso del programa sea muy fructífero tanto para ustedes como para nuestra comunidad. Como fellows, no solamente tenemos el privilegio de ser tomados de la mano por los expertos que hacen que las políticas que coordinan el sistema de identificadores únicos de Internet, no solo los nombres de dominio, sino también los números, vengan con nosotros, nos hablen directamente. Tenemos la oportunidad de hablar directamente con ellos, formularles preguntas. Pero además de eso, tenemos la gran fortuna de que cuando nos identificamos como parte de este grupo de personas que somos los fellows, siempre se nos abre la puerta, siempre se nos recibe cálidamente, de buena manera, con buena disposición. y siempre con la voluntad de orientarnos, de ayudarnos, de darnos el espacio para contribuir. Y justamente en la contribución es en donde creo que tienen ustedes la mayor oportunidad, tanto para desarrollarse como para regresar a la comunidad parte de lo que están recibiendo como fellows. Este es un compromiso bilateral. Este es un compromiso que adquirimos para venir a aprender, pero también para venir a trabajar y para regresar a nuestras comunidades y difundir lo que hemos aprendido y animar a otros a que se unan también a este ecosistema. Ese es el valor que como fellows podemos agregar a esta comunidad. Evidentemente, las áreas en las que podemos contribuir son diversas, justamente como nuestra comunidad. Y yo los exhorto a que traten de encontrar el espacio que más les acomode dentro de ICANN, que muchas veces va a ser contrario a lo que ustedes pensarían que es natural en relación con sus intereses profesionales o sus intereses académicos. Les pongo mi ejemplo. Yo soy un abogado en propiedad intelectual y si bien en los inicios de mi trayectoria me uní a el IPC, que es la casa donde residen justamente los titulares de derechos de propiedad intelectual, los interesados en este tipo de derechos. También siempre tuve y he tenido y mantengo una pasión por los derechos de los usuarios de Internet. Y al involucrarme con la comunidad de at large, descubrí que mi lugar en esta comunidad estaba ahí, no en mi área de práctica profesional. De hecho, en mi área de práctica profesional creo que es en lo que menos he trabajado dentro de ICANN. ¿No? Digo, conozco el tema, por supuesto, me interesa, sigo las discusiones. Sin embargo, creo que mis contribuciones más significativas han tenido que ver del lado de los usuarios finales de Internet y del lado de ayudar a construir nuestra comunidad, evolucionar nuestra organización. Parte de los trabajos que he tenido oportunidad de desempeñar previo a estar como parte del board fue justamente coliderar un grupo de trabajo que a mi juicio fue muy importante. Hace 10 años ya, el grupo multidisciplinario para la transición, para la rendición de cuentas en la transición de IANA. Y eso me dio la oportunidad no solamente de alguna manera refundar la organización, porque hicimos una redacción nueva completamente de los estatutos, introdujimos nuevos mecanismos para garantizar la rendición de cuentas, nuevos mecanismos para revisar que ICANN y su comunidad estuvieran desempeñando la misión conforme a los valores, los fundamentos y la misión de ICANN. Y pues eso definitivamente para mí ha sido una de las más grandes experiencias, más satisfactorias oportunidades que he tenido para contribuir a nuestra comunidad. Luego de eso, tuve la oportunidad de contar con la confianza de mi comunidad, justamente, la comunidad de at large, y me designaron para ocupar el asiento 15 dentro de la junta directiva. Esto cumple ya 9 años este año. Este año estaré dando oportunidad a alguien más para que me suceda en el board. Esa persona es Justin Chu. Estoy seguro de que ella va a hacer también una gran labor. Y lo que les quiero decir es que oportunidades para desarrollarse en ICANN hay muchas. Lo único que tienen que hacer es encontrar ese nicho, encontrar ese tema que les apasione y que les permita contribuir a la misión de ICANN. Y recordar que si tenemos la oportunidad de acceder a puestos de liderazgo, estos puestos son para servir a la comunidad, no para servirnos a nosotros mismos. En la medida en que nosotros entendamos que estos puestos de liderazgo son justamente para servir a nuestra comunidad, no solamente estaremos regresándole a nuestra comunidad parte de lo que nos da, sino creo que estaremos viviendo conforme al estándar y a la misión y a los valores que enarbolamos todos dentro de ICANN. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you very much. Always inspirational. And this session is intended to be very interactive. We don't have any presentations per se, but we have almost the entire board here. And I thank you, all of you, for being here with us. I'm not going to introduce everyone, but we will open the floor for the questions. And from the board, whoever is ready to respond, you can just introduce yourself and respond. And if you want to ask questions, please raise your hand. I will be looking to the auditorium. And if time allows, I hope that we will cover as many questions as possible. So, who is the first? Let's go. Maciek, go ahead.
Okay, it's always me. Kim, second-time fellow. I represent Uralo, and pretty soon I will be representing ALAC. So thank you very much for this opportunity, this trust that I got thanks to fellowship. This wouldn't be possible without the fellowship. And I wish to return what I got, the caring and expert help and advice from Cyrinush, my mentor Glenn, and countless others in the community. But I've got limited time, limited energy. I want to commit those to where it matters, especially for the end users, whether they are human rights activists, small businessmen, people who just like to post pictures of their children on the internet, whatever it is. So what do you say will make ICANN relevant in 5 to 10 years, where there's even more walled gardens of corporate apps, services based on APIs, when IPv6 will make it easier to get a static IP address instead of a domain name? Or to put it another way, what doesn't work with ICANN yet, and how can we help to fix it with this group here?
So thank you. I am James Galvin. I am the SAC liaison to the ICANN board, SAC, Security and Stability Advisory Committee. One quick answer to your question, the easy part is, how can you contribute? By being here, bringing your ideas and your energy and guiding us in a path forward. And I mean that quite sincerely. One of the things that we do worry about is the future is uncertain. It can look daunting. I'm sure that it does to you. It does to us too. But we're looking for fresh news and fresh ideas. On the security and stability side, we recognize that technology changes, it advances, the risks change, the needs of how to protect ourselves and to do all of the things that you talked about change over time. I know that there are many among you who have done cybersecurity and security-related presentations and topics. I've had the absolute privilege to speak with a few of you, not all of you who have brought those things forward. But I wanted to also mention on SAC, you don't have to be a technologist or just a cybersecurity person to join SAC. We have among our membership lawyers, human rights participants, law enforcement participants. All voices bring a perspective that is important to security. And I'd like you to be a part of that future. We're going to have new needs as we have new threats, new vulnerabilities, and new technologies that come forward. And we really do need for you to bring your energy and your ideas, and let's talk about it. And I'll make my last pitch for the SAC RSAC open mic tomorrow at 14:45. Please come to our open mic room and say hello and meet SAC and RSAC members. And feel free to come up and talk to me, and I'll be happy to introduce you to members. You can make some contacts and get to know people there. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And just for everyone to know, like 2 years ago, we started the pilot program with ESSA Security and Stability. And during this less than 2 years, 5 new members of ESSAC are fellows. So they are opening the doors for everyone who has the skills and who would like to join. So please use this opportunity. Thank you, James. Yes, please.
Thanks. One part of your question I think is really important is how does ICANN meet the challenges of 5 to 10 years as the internet changes shape? One thing I think about a lot is making sure that the policy development process remains flexible and is meeting the challenges as they arise. So that means a couple of things, being willing to have the process itself evolve, but then also making sure that the participants are working towards compromise. Because what can stall the policymaking process is when people retreat to their specific positions and don't look to collaborate. One of the things I think about, and I come from the GNSO policy side, from the registrars and registries on the ICANN board. And so when you're looking at this policy space, it's bringing your ideas forward, but also listening to others and forming consensus so that policy can adapt to the changing landscape.
Thank you, Greg. Yes.
Just to round up what my colleagues have said, I think that the challenge into the future is also to keep our model going, right? To defend the multi-stakeholder model, to advocate for a single open internet, to create awareness that the internet has become what it is because if it's open. Because it is a single internet, because it remains open, and for those who want to close it, to wall garden it, to paywall it, whatever, we need to let them know that's not the way it should be. And also, I think another challenge is to strengthen our multi-stakeholder model by also being self-critics to the model and try to evolve it in a way that grows more efficient and more welcoming to everyone.
Thank you. Yes, I see. Sam, please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Samuel Karaoke, and I'm an ICANN fellow. My question is, how do you deal with the challenges now that you need people from different backgrounds? Thank you.
Can you repeat, please?
My question is, how do you deal with the challenges, or how do you overcome challenges now that you deal with leading people from different backgrounds?
So many
already. All right. I'll try to attempt answering your question. So challenges exist in every sphere of life. And when we're having technical discussions, we have challenges there. When we have discussions on policy, we have challenges there. And the challenges oftentimes stem from the fact the problem space might be very difficult to solve. That could present a challenge. Or when you're just articulating policy, you have participants who have strong opinions and don't budge from their opinion. So I've taken two extremes, technical solutions and policy. So when it comes to policy, the purpose of policy is you've got some new service that has been released and you want to ensure that there's a fair distribution of the service and it operates within certain guardrails. And that's where the challenges occur with people who have entrenched opinions. So the way I can only speak from my own experience, but you listen to everyone, you listen to everyone's point of view, and you seek to arrive at what I call, and I borrowed this term from those who lay fiber in the ground, is meet me points. You have exchange points when you build out networks, and you have a point where everyone meets, and it's the most optimized meeting point. So it's no different for policy. You have to just be a very good moderator, if you're the chair of the session, to ensure that you arrive at the meet points, and it's a win solution. But it's never going to be a full win for everyone. Everyone has to give a little before we can all arrive at a solution. And with technology, it's the same thing. You just have to peel the onion and try to see what you're trying to get at and see how you can address the solution. But the really challenges can be overcome with one, listening carefully, with collaborative solutions, and just being respectful of the process. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, David Lawrence, IETF liaison to the board. I wanted to note two additional aspects of ICANN that can help out here. One is our leadership program actually helps train people in how to mediate discussions, deal with difficult situations, and try to reach these consensus opinions. It's a very informative program that includes interactive training sessions that can really help people in leadership positions running PDPs or working groups or so on in order to come to conclusions. And then the other is, I feel I should mention our ombuds. Sometimes we do enter into intractable situations with other community members, and our ombuds person is here to try to help resolve those issues as well, coming from a professional background of how to deal with people from many different cultures and sometimes things that are inadvertently problems that really aren't when you get down to it.
Thank you, David. Raul, please.
Thank you very much. Dave already mentioned some of the points that, I'm Raúl Echeverría, member of the board. Dave already mentioned some of the points that I was going to mention, but beside that, I think that dealing with diversity is not a problem for us. It's one of our assets, it's one of the sources of legitimacy of this community. For other kind of organizations or companies, maybe having big diversity could be complicated or expensive or could be considered a problem. For us, it's all the opposite. So I think that we have to welcome this, the complexity and the challenges that come with the complexity of the diversity, not only geographic diversity or age diversity, but the diversity in terms of several different dimensions. Thank you.
Thank you. Omran, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. My name is Omran, and I am a NextGen. This is my first time here, and everything is new, and there's a lot of things to learn as well. My background is medical, but I'm also a data scientist, and now doing my master in AI in Christiania University in Oslo. Like when we're talking about AI and we see how things actually accelerate what used to, like 10 years ago, for example, there are a lot of things that we achieve in 10 years. Now we achieve them in 1 year, for example. And when we see the policy adoption process in ICANN, it takes up to 3 years. How can we be able to manage to follow up the advancements and also the progress in the technology sector and also the challenges that we're facing, especially with the presence of AI now, together with the policy adoption process of 3 years, for example, if plus minus, because things change right now very rapidly. How can we be able to adapt that? And the second question is, what is your advice for next geners? Because like now we're speaking from the bottom to the top, and there's huge gap between us. What is your advice for the next geners? Thank you very much.
I'll try to, but lots of my colleagues would like to address your question, so I'll take your first one and then the second. So AI, I couldn't agree with you more, is quite the game changer. It's a disruptor. And what makes it so fascinating is not only have we been able to arrive at models that work and mimic the human brain, but they're much faster, processing speed. The speed is amazing, and they operate in parallel. Humans cannot think in parallel. And furthermore, they don't sleep. So they're continuously operating. Yes, it poses a huge challenge for us as humans. In terms of how that applies to the policy development process, I think we can take advantage of some of the AI tools to help put together drafting templates of policies and also do some critical analysis on discussions that occur. So we could actually use AI as a tool to advance policy development. However, in the end, the ratification, the development of policy is in the hands of the people. We human beings have to ratify it. So we just have to look in earnest to see how we can actually apply the technology. Did you have a follow-up question?
This is just a follow-up question, very quick. Now we're having a huge discussion with cybersecurity sector as well, in the AI and the cybersecurity. And instead of us dealing with challenges that we face now, what about us thinking about what challenges can actually arise in the near future? And now when we see like quantum computers together with AI,
Yep.
I think it's better for us to start thinking about that now instead of it happening and then we try to find solutions. Just to add that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to do it now. We shouldn't wait for quantum computing and quantum technologies to arrive. I couldn't agree with you more. And both spaces that you're talking about are in my professional field. And the second question that you have is, what can you do, the next generation, looking up at us old fogies here? My advice to you is to do what I did when I was younger, which is keep learning, don't give up. And I tell you now, it's not like 100 years ago where you learn from a textbook and you were done learning. It's a continuous learning process for the rest of your life. It does not end. Don't be afraid of challenges. Put yourself forward. Always say yes. I embrace whatever came my way. So just stay in touch because technology is moving at an amazing pace. And I know my colleagues would like to speak David and I saw Jim. So, David?
I will defer to Niyaki first.
I think you asked me this question yesterday again, and a number of you asked me how is it to be up there in the board. And I told you, I didn't just get here. It's a journey, and you are on the right track. I even said you're very lucky. You've got so much that you can grow. There's so much you can network. There's a lot you can learn, whether it's ICANN or elsewhere, but the opportunities are there, and we're not going to be here forever. So you can work through it. And some of you are telling me you're so scared. That isn't it scary? And I told you, even I was scared at that age, but even I was scared when I first came to the board. But there are opportunities to learn, and you'll get there.
So one of the things that I think is really important to say, in addition to Tripti's point about just keep learning, as Leon had mentioned, doors open because of your participation in NextGen or fellows, but it's still up to you to step through them. And so what you have to do is keep participating, not just keep learning, but be actively involved in the community and contributing, because what the community really values is the contributions. You can show up and sit and listen, and maybe you're learning, but it doesn't really move you unless you are also contributing. And there's plenty of opportunities to contribute, whether it be on an SAC work party or an RSAC work party or contributing to a PvP. This is what the community really values. Like, I admire you're a doctor, you're working on your AI masters. When it comes down to it, there are people all throughout this community, some of whom don't have any advanced degrees, some of whom are doctors I've been involved in the industry for years. What really makes a difference is your contribution. And so that means sometimes Tripti will say, I've said some stupid things to the board. Don't be afraid of saying, I don't understand why this is the way it is. And maybe the answer that comes back is, actually, that could change. Maybe the answer comes back, this is the way it is. And you learn that way. Keep contributing, keep showing up. That's what's going to make the difference about being involved in the community.
Thank you. So Jim Galvin again for the record. One of the things that you asked about was, how do we speed up the process of overcoming the fact that technology advances more quickly than we can do our thing? The observation that I make there is PDP processes, just like laws and regulations, they are by definition slow. What we get to think about is what slow really means. And you have an opportunity to help speed that up and make that something different. The reason why they're slow is because of the question that was asked earlier about what are the challenges that we face, given that we have multiple cultures, multiple languages, multiple perspectives here. That's why it's slow. It takes time for everyone to have a voice and to speak and to find the consensus in that. You're here, that's the opportunity, which brings me to my second point about, you made reference to, here you are, and you spoke about yourselves being the bottom talking to the top. It sounds like a cliche, and we've said it a few times in a few different ways. Excuse me, but you should never think of yourself as being at the bottom talking to the top. When you're involved in the process and you're here, we are all equals and we all have a voice. I know, as others have said, it can be daunting. It's scary to be the first person to speak. It's scary to have something to say when you're afraid of whether or not it's a good thing or not. But that's the learning experience. That's part of what you have to do as wanting to contribute and to be an equal. You have to be willing to step up and say things and learn from it and be seen as someone who has a valid opinion. Okay. You have to earn that respect by being a part of the process and being here and contributing and offering your opinion. And as others have said here, it's important that you keep coming to the table, you keep contributing, and be confident, be interested. And those of us who are here at this end and up here at the table, we want you here. We welcome you. There are others in the community who do. And for those who might think that they don't want you, you just have to move around them and move on to someone who does want to listen to you, because your voice is valid and we do want to hear it. So thank you.
Just to add to what my colleagues have said, and as a piece of advice to not only NextGeners, but also to fellows, I think it's important to understand that there are no dumb or silly questions. There are dumb people that don't ask questions. You have to be smart enough to do the right questions, brave enough to defend your stance and your positions if you think they are worth, but also humble enough to recognize when you might be mistaken and open enough to listen others and to try to build those bridges that help us build consensus, because that's what this community is about, building consensus to walk together.
Thank you, Leon. We have already a big queue who wants to ask questions. So please make your question brief, short, and the responses also, if possible, so we are able to cover as many questions as possible. Ahmed, you, and then Huda.
Thank you so much. This is Ahmed Farah for the record. I'm the former chair of the North African IGF. And I think as a member of the ICANN community and Internet Governance Forum community, we were happy about the $1 million US contribution announced yesterday, I think, to enhance the multi-stakeholder model. My question here is, how can we get the most benefit of this contribution? How can we enhance the multi-stakeholder, especially in the underrepresented and developing countries and region? Thank you.
So one of the modalities that ICANN is using is the Fellows Program. We're building capacity in underserved regions for exactly that reason, which is how do we bring those voices to the table? My advice to you is to, and I'm assuming you're a fellow, correct? So stay engaged and then help bring others into the fold so that their voices can be heard. And multi-stakeholder means exactly that, which is it's multiple voices from different parts of the world, and also constituents, which is you might be from the technical community of the world or a policy-making community of the world, or you're running technical services and so forth. So please ensure that you take a personal responsibility. If you care about the mission, then you delve right into it and let us hear your voices here. And then ICANN, as an organization, as I said, it put these different modalities in place to seek the input. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Hold up, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Cyril. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Huda Sheikhi. I'm ICANN Fellow 86. My question is, following the great increase of technology joined with the requirement of new policies, is it possible to think about or propose new working groups at ICANN?
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of why we're here, to always think about new working groups. So I guess maybe there's two questions. There's working groups within the policy development context, or new constituencies. I guess those are two different questions.
I will be more specified. For example, there is two initiatives. They are thinking about AI community building their own agent DNS. But here we need the role of ICANN to state new policies, because now we need to think about new requirements. We think about new attacks related to based in the use of AI. Here we need new policies, and it's about new statement of new rules.
Yeah, I think there's a number of avenues to suggest new policy streams, new policy tracks, even looking more globally as part of the reviews that ICANN undertakes. They're even going to review like the structure of ICANN. Is that being responsive? But yeah, there is a process by which people can raise concerns, communities can raise concerns and say this is an issue for which new policy should be developed. And that it's bottom up, and it can come from anywhere within the ICANN structure. And ideally that comes to a working group that develops policy and becomes a new part of ICANN policy that governs our ecosystem. That answer your question?
One quick
Thank
note
you.
that I'd like
Yes.
to add on that is that it also, though, does have to be in ICANN's remit. Like you mentioned AI, for example, and AI governance is a very hot topic and very relevant to what is going to go on in the internet governance space. However, there might be some small piece of it that fits within ICANN's remit to the extent that it relates to identifiers on the internet somehow, for example. But general issues of AI governance would be scope creep for ICANN to start to get involved in. So part of it is finding the right forum for perhaps IGF or there might be some other place that is better suited to some types of policy discussions than ICANN would be.
Thank you, Greg and David. Tinyada, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you everyone. Tinade Ogunti, ICANN86 fellow from Nigeria. Thank you for the opportunity. And I want to first sympathize with the board for the loss of one of your colleagues and, of course, a leader in the internet space. I think Omran has sent into my books, and what I wanted to ask was actually about AI readiness and post-quantum computing. ICANN84 had asked the CTO of ICANN during one of the meetings like this about ICANN's readiness for this. And I was really happy, partly, but I feel it was still reactive, if you ask me. When we had the session on Monday and this whole room was full online, we had over 100 people joining for that session, the coming and the current impact of AI on DNS abuse. I just want to know from the board, do we even have any framework for this so that we don't get to react? That's why I said, I think Omer had sent into my books, so that we are able to see this ahead and work towards it, not reacting. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. We are indeed quite focused on, as I said earlier, these disruptive technologies that are pretty much here now and pushing us in various and sundry directions. The board is already talking about AI. I know our CEO, who was not able to join us today because of personal reasons, inside the organization, he has the CTO's office looking at how AI is impacting not just the work of the community, but also internally from a organizational perspective. Like, how could it be embraced to bring about efficiencies and so forth? And coming to quantum technologies, I'm glad you brought it up. Quantum technologies is probably a few years away. However, it is time for us to start looking at PQC, post-quantum cryptography, because once quantum computers are here, they will, Shore's algorithm will be able to break RSA encryption. So I am aware that the CTO, John Crane's office, is looking at that as well. Thank you.
Raul?
There's very little to add what Tripti already said, but we are exactly aligned with what you said over there. That trying not to be reactive, but trying to anticipate this, prepare not only ourselves as a board, but also the organization. And we are looking to different impacts that are possible, as Tripti said. But we have also to keep in mind that it's not just the responsibility of ICANN. This is a myriad of organizations and forums that are dealing with same issues, and IETF, others. We are not worried that we are working on being coordinated, learning what others are doing, and trying to provide also our concerns and enrich each other. So I think we are exactly in the point that you asked, that's to not be reactive and trying to work in, trying to anticipate the impacts of the new technologies. That, of course, is a challenge for us, but not just for us. It's the evolution of new technologies at this moment is the big challenge for every organization and company in the world.
And just to add one more comment here is that if you look at the ICANN schedule, you will see there were many sessions dedicated to DNS abuse and AI and its impact. So it's impacting everybody in every form, including our industry, the DNS ecosystem. So it's on the radar of the SSAC, of the RSAC, and all these different constituencies. The PDP development processes employing tools to see how it can expedite their process. So yes, we're responding to the disruptor.
Thank you very much. David?
I just wanted to add one comment because I realized I thought this would be a redundant comment until Raul mentioned it, actually. Some of you may not fully be aware of the entire technology ecosystem around the internet. And so the Internet Engineering Task Force is the technology developer on which ICANN and other internet organizations build their protocols for interacting with each other. Like, ICANN itself would not be involved in developing post-quantum cryptography. It does send members of its technical staff to participate in the IETF, but the emergent standards on how to deal with this on the internet would actually emerge from the IETF, and ICANN would then take that under advisement into how to integrate it into its operations and processes. ICANN plays an extremely important role here, but a lot of it's not developing most of the technology on which the internet runs. It's just helping manage it as it emerges.
Thank you. The next question from Filimoni. Please go ahead.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings to the board, and thank you, Cyranosh, for the opportunity. This is Filimoni Pernazzo for the record from Samoa, And I'm very honored to be here on my first policy forum. I'm a returning fellow. I've been in public forums, but this one's been a very interesting one for me. I've been very overwhelmed with a lot of EDP processes happening, and I've been in some of the sessions for working groups, and I commend all working groups for the work that's been done, but it's been very overwhelming. So I'd like to take the opportunity to ask a EDP question is to the board. Given the significant volume of policy work already produced, how does the board balance investing in new policy development versus evaluating existing policies? And my follow-up question is, how does the board currently assess whether adopted policies are achieving their intended outcomes? Thank you.
Yes, correct. Please.
Yeah. Great questions. So I think there's two answers. So after a policy is created, it is set for review after a certain cadence, and the GNSO will prioritize that review. So some policies are generally viewed as effective. So for example, the UDRP was one of the first policies. It's been slated to be reviewed for a little while. That's been pushed, I think, a little bit compared to other ones because there's general acknowledgement it's functioning well. But every policy that is created is reviewed subsequently. So just this last board meeting, the ICANN board adopted an updated policy on the transfer policy. So that the policy by which domains transfer from one register to another, that was an original, a very early policy. In the last couple of years, the community came together to review that, make sure that the security, for example, was up to current standards, and they updated security involved in transferring domains between two registrars. So there is that mechanism built into it. I think the other part of your question that is a really interesting challenge that the board and the community have is balancing the need for new policy development with the bandwidth of volunteers. There is a set amount of volunteers and ICANN staff that can have streams of policy development running at the same time. So it's a little bit of a delicate balance involving listening to the community to identify the problems that need to be addressed through policy. But on the other side, getting an understanding, are we putting too much on the community? In certain circumstances, we've heard community members pushing back saying, we can't add it, we're at our capacity. No set answer. I think it's really about listening and adapting based on the community feedback.
Thank you, Greg. Ankita.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Ankita Rathi for the record. I'm ICANN86 fellow. I've been closely following the RDRS and SSAD supplemental recommendations discussions. And for background, RDRS was developed with the input from GNSO on systems design and implemented at the direction of the ICANN board to help inform policy decisions related to a system for standardized access and disclosure to non-public GTLD registration data. My question is, from both perspective, what has been the most significant insight from the pilot so far, and how might that shape the future discussions on timely access to registration data to mitigate DNS abuse? Thank you.
Greg. Yes.
So interesting, and what is most important. So I think I'll share, this might be my opinion, other on the boards may vary. But when we first look at the original SAD recommendations, they had a very high cost, and we needed to measure, is there enough utility to warrant this cost? And is there a way we can set up the system to reduce costs? And so I think we learned there is still utility with a slightly different model. The first model that was envisioned was every user that requested data would go through this accreditation process, which is very expensive. And I think we found that for some user groups that's necessary, but maybe not for all, and that user groups can develop in the future. So I think we were able to determine that there is utility in having this centralized system. I think requesters appreciate that there could be a central place to request data as opposed to trying to find it at trying to find where to request it at each individual registrar, and that we can be flexible and make modifications where we can lower the price of the system, the cost to operate, and still preserve some of the utility of making sure requests for data are routed to the right place.
Thank you. Songo, I know you have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Songo. I'm from the Pacific Islands. I don't know whether my question will be in context with the discussions here, but I felt it strongly that I should raise this concern up. I'm one of those ICANN86 fellows. Is that so many obstacles of coming into the Schengen area, and I believe that other colleagues who have not made it here, they have faced the same obstacles. But what I'm trying to ask here is that will there be some leniency or some consideration be given to those fellows did not make it to get their visas to come to attend this ICANN86 conference? Because for my case here, I should not have come here, but because I have got another call from Estonia, I was able to come here because they processed my Estonian Schengen visa. Please, I'm just making an appeal if the board can give considerations to those ICANN86 fellows that have not made it to this ICANN86 forum. Can they consider them for the next ICANN86 fellowship program? Thank you.
Thank you, Songo, and I'm really happy that you made it, that you are here. I see Miriam.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. Miriam Shapiro, member of the ICANN board. And I'm really glad you raised this today because we are all so excited by the fellows in the NextGen program, but access is critical. You can't apply, we can't select you and make it a meaningful experience if you can't join us in person, as we hope. We have heard, Catherine and I in particular, have been very focused on this issue lately. We have heard of people unable to be here, in addition to the examples that you cited. So if you can provide us or the ICANN staff with details, we will collect this information. We actually set up an informal visa task force on the board about a year ago when we first heard of problems again. And it may be time to resuscitate that effort. And again, try to have a situation where we cannot say it's never going to happen. It's up to the host government in the end. But at least we can do everything as part of our community to minimize the chance of this happening if we're proactive about it. So thank you for raising it. And Catherine may have more to add. Thank you.
This issue came up as well in the Africa space this morning. And a number of you raised the issue. I can see you nodding, saying that quite a few of you didn't get your visas and you would not like to be penalized. And I'm glad you've raised it as well. And I think the reassurance that I gave is the board is also aware about the situation. And we are going to see what we can do about it. I think that's the best commitment they can make. I don't want to go into finer details, but when I say the board is aware, we are going to address it. Thank you.
Thank you for raising this, and I can only echo what my colleagues have said. But I would also invite us to think that if you were able to get your visa through the intervention of Estonia, as you said, and you didn't get it through the intervention of ICANN, then there is something that's left there for us to do. We can do better. If you were able to get it through one channel, you should be able to get it through our channel. And I would be interested to learn what you did that we can do better.
Thank you. Yeah, indeed, for this round, we had 5 fellows who didn't get their visas, and 4 of them were from Africa. Yes, I'm happy to provide additional information to the board, definitely. Okay, let's move forward. I have Mariana here, and I'll come back to you.
Hello. Hello, I'm Mariana. I'm from Brazil. I'm a fellow. Sorry. My question is for Leon or anyone on the board. We have heard a lot during ICANN meeting about the risks of AI being used by malicious actors to facilitate DNS abuse. I would like to ask, how does the board view the use of AI as a tool to protect intellectual property rights in the DNS system?
Thank you very much for your question. I will try to answer in the best of my capacity and knowledge because I'm not a technical guy, but then maybe any of my colleagues might want to chime in as well. I think, and I'm confident that I can share this speaking as a board member, and also I think that this is the sentiment in the board, that AI is a very powerful tool. And as any other tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It depends on many things, or in people, whether to use it for good or for bad. And in terms of protecting IP, I think, again, it's a good tool to try to enhance the way that registrations may come in. But I can't see a scenario in which it would ultimately substitute the intervention of the registrars and the registries. We already have some mechanisms that help protect intellectual property in the domain name space. And if at all, what I have learned is that there are always false positives in protecting IP. So if we leave that task to artificial intelligence, at least at this stage, we might be facing a problem bigger than what we are solving. So again, I think it's a powerful tool. Depends on which side you stand to use it for good or bad, but we should be definitely keeping an eye on that. And I don't know, Jim, do you want to say something about it?
So thank you for the question. To add to what Leon was saying, there are really two parts to this, and I want to frame it slightly differently than what he said, but equally. I think that on the question of as a tool being used for bad, it's important to keep in mind that DNS abuse and what it means has a definition in this community at this time. And the notion of IP rights and that kind of thing are not part of that definition in terms of what is explicitly within our remit at this time. So as a tool that might exploit those kinds of things, that's what bad guys do. They find a way in and they do things. That said, there are certainly parties that do pay attention to the opportunity to deal with that abuse directly. Even though ICANN may not compel them to, they take it upon themselves to do things. And there are certainly players and actors within this community who do take that role. The other thing is, in terms of using AI for positive reasons, we're all exploring that. We're all trying to figure out what that is. I really just wanted to put out there to add to the discussion of the board is elevating its own knowledge and opportunity. Org is doing its part, as has been said before, with Octo having their range. And ESAC has a work party. They were part sponsor of the plenary session that was held this week about AI and abuse, but we have a work party looking specifically at AI and abuse and the role that it could and could not play in all of that. Look for additional advice to add to the discussion, and we'll figure it out as we go. Hopefully you'll be there to help us. Thank you.
I'd add one thing in the intellectual property space that as a development, the next round is opening up for new GTLDs. We expect that brands will be applying for .brand TLDs, and there could be some interesting new applications there. .brand TLDs are unique in that the IP rights holder has more control over how names in those TLDs work, and arguably there's less surface area for attack in certain degrees. So if you're interested in that subject, that could be another space to watch as the next round proceeds.
Thank you. Jim, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jia Wei-Cui from Taiwan, and I'm TW Nick Kenny Fellow, also a Serenish, honorary Serenish Adopting Fellow for ICANN. And this is my second time to participate ICANN meeting. My first time is in ICANN86 in Mumbai, and it has also brought me into the world of domain name and all the kind of internet governance issues. And I have a question, and I want to ask to the board members, is that during these kind of policy discussions, I think one very critical part is how to decide whether to stick to your own decision or your own value or to compromise, because it is like a multi-stakeholder group. Everybody has their own stances. However, if you don't compromise, you cannot move on. But if you compromise, you're kind of like maybe undermining the stances you have. So I want to see how board members see these issues and how can it direct me to participate into the further discussions on policy.
So it's a great question and a central dynamic of ICANN. How do you get to compromise? Maybe my short answer is hard work. You have to keep coming at the problem from different angles, right? Maybe at first it seems like these are two diametrically opposed positions, but as people flesh out possible compromise language, what if we phrase it like this? What if there's a new mechanism that could address that concern? And so you have to work towards compromise is how I'd frame it, as opposed to giving up the principle you have. Think of other ways of meeting your objective that could align with the other person's objective.
Raul, please. And then
Yes, thank you. Just a brief comment. This is a very good comment from our colleague from Taiwan. This is exactly what is one of the pillars of the multi-stakeholder model that we have built and developed from almost 30 years. This is one of the biggest difference with regard to the traditional governance models. That is what we see all around the world in the Congress, on the governments of countries, is based on the building majorities. And all the internet governance system is based on developing consensus, maximizing the opportunities of consensus. So this is a spirit of compromise that need the willingness of all the participants is crucial. So I really glad that you appreciated that when you got in touch with this model, and it's probably one of the main lessons that we expect people that is a newcomer take away from this experience. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, which is a great one. And I think we have a very good compass in our bylaws, which are our principles and our core values. So to me, it all boils down to going to that fundamental layer. You have to separate your interests, whether commercial or personal, from your values, from your core values, from your principles, from your fundamentals. If you are able to find a formula in which your interests might be compromised in a way that you don't compromise those fundamentals, those core values, those principles, then I think that is the sweet spot for you to know whether you can find that compromise with your counterparty or if you should stand strong on your stance.
Miriam, please.
Thank you. That's a great question as well. I sometimes teach a class on the art of negotiations. And what I would offer is what we talk about there. First of all, listen really carefully. There's a reason why we have one mouth but two ears. Number two, be creative. In listening, you will learn a lot about what someone's core interest or objective might really be. It might not be what they're telling you or even what they think it is at first, but you may be able to discern other underlying issues that might be addressed, which leads me to my third and final suggestion, which is, having listened and thought creatively, try to come up with a win-win scenario. It's not impossible. Often there's a solution. It may not be what people walked in wanting or thought they wanted, but it's something that can move the issue forward, make people reasonably happy and confident that it's a step in the right direction, even if it's not everything that you or others may have first thought of. So I hope that's helpful, and we'll look forward to hearing how that goes. Thank you.
Ashish, yes, please
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon to the House. Myself, Ashish, from the technical user community in India. This question is in continuation with the AI threat, which was raised by one of the fellows. There is a company called Anthropic, most of you might be knowing. So they seem to have a total control of the vulnerability database of even the bind server and all. While we take assurance from the fact that we have got an Anycast setup for the root servers, there are so many instances. So a real threat might not be as far as we imagine, because they have been working on it for the past 20 years, and the attack could be coming much sooner than we think. Is the board going to do something towards that?
So
If I understand your question, you're saying that in spite of the root server system being anycasted, with AI now here, are we able to keep up with a potential new threat? So, am I right? Did I understand?
Yes, that's right. This company has got a real database of the vulnerabilities, and it could be from a government sector, and we face a real threat from them, and we are working hard on it. So this could be means time might be running out if we think of an all-round distributed attack on the DNS servers.
Yeah.
May not be all of them, but most
Yeah.
of them at a single go.
Yeah. So today, I mean, we have probably one of the most resilient systems that exists today that scales and does well as the DNS root system. It is well over 1,000 instances, but I understand what you're saying is that now with these new modalities, how do we counteract them? So I don't know if you're aware of the work that's going on, which is called hyperlocal root, which is bring the root down to the very end point. And I really honestly believe this is time for us to take that seriously. And there's work that's been going on in the IETF. One of my board colleagues is an author on that paper as well. And there are lots of tests and experiments that have been conducted in that space. But I think one way to counteract that is to ensure that resolution can occur just right at your endpoint. And that's one way to counteract the attacks. But certainly there's work in this area. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hugo?
Could I add just a quick note on that?
David.
Which is also, yes, Anthropic had a pretty big headline number about all the thousands of vulnerabilities that it found and reported. I happen to know the Internet Software Systems Consortium staff who was working on Bind, and they've been vetting through most of them. And while a few of them turned out to be actual issues that they needed to address, there also are a large number of vulnerabilities reported that turn out to not be meaningful vulnerabilities. There is an important distinction to make between what the headlines say and what's actually happening under the hood. And as Tripti has pointed out, as a former root server operator, the system as its whole is very resilient, even to the extent that you might be able to compromise individual instances. The root zone itself is DNSSEC secure, so validating resolvers would still notice any tampering with data. The system as a whole is still pretty stable.
Hello? Yep. Hi, my name is Hugo. I'm a NextGen participant. So first of all, I would like to thank the board for the opportunity of being part of this program, not for me, but for myself as well, but for all of my colleagues. Up to this point, we have all presented, given our talks. And do we feel our voices are being heard? And that also this also serves to you and the community as well. So first of all, thank you. Second, keep the NextGen program, because it brings fresh ideas. And part of the next steps we would like to take is to keep in touch in the ICANN community and to see this work being implemented in the next months, years. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Hugo. And I think we might take the last question, but I want to comment on what Hugo says. The importance of fellowship and NextGen programs is not only in the opportunity it provides, but also in the opportunity of bringing diverse voices into the ICANN community. And on behalf of all of you, I also would like to thank the board for supporting those two programs to strengthen multi-stakeholder engagement and to make truly the policy development here to match the needs of the global community here. So thank you very much from all of us. We have 2 minutes left, and probably Ignacio is there, probably will be the last one. So please.
Okay, thank you very much to the board for your time and for the willing of being here. My name is Ignacio, an ICANN fellow. And my question is not about participation itself, but to better understand some reasons of the model. I know that the direct answer to my question would be because of the bylaws, but my question is, as I understand, the GAC doesn't have a vote on the board decision. So to what extent is it really a multi-stakeholder model when the public sector doesn't have a binding voice? Even though I know it's because of the bylaws, but I would like to better understand the reasons behind that construction of the model. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. You've asked a very complex and critical. I'm sorry, are you the one who asked the questions? I want to make sure I'm looking at you. It's a good question, very complex and very critical. First, Yes, the GAC does not have a voice, but it's represented by 184 countries. So as you can imagine, it would be very difficult for countries to be able to vote or speak with a single voice because they are all bound to their national laws and public policy and so forth. However, every time a policy recommendation comes forward, the GAC then has bilateral meetings with the board, and they oftentimes issue advice. And according to our bylaws, we have to take a pause before we actually ratify that particular policy. We have to take a pause and consider the advice very seriously, which we do. So we go through our due process and we consider the advice and then issue a statement to the GAC. So we do, it is indeed still multi-stakeholder. They get to present their opinions. We have bilateral meetings with them at every ICANN meeting, and we have intersessional meetings as well. And their chair sits on our board as liaison. So I hope that answers your question. Yes, thank you.
Yes, Catherine, please.
Actually, I don't want to add something, but there's somebody who has been putting her hand like this, shyly. Could you just allow her? I'm saying she's been putting up her hand and very shy.
Yes, please, go ahead. We
So I'm
don't
giving
want
you
to
the
miss the opportunity to give you the chance to ask.
Thank you. My question is really brief. Thank you so much, Catherine, for the opportunity. I am Sheila Kakoza from the Uganda DNS Forum. Mine is a question. Since the fellowship brings together, it combines both the people in the fellowship program and the NextGen, and ICANN's work is, there's two broad categories. There's the policy side, and then there's the technical side. But the NextGen participants are students, which is more of a research-based. And since positively, we're involving fellows in the PDPs, is there something similarly being done for the fellows that have a technical background to support their work, let's say in ICANN's technical side, the DNS and the root server work and the peering? Is there a way we can support these technical fellows, especially in their research through knowledge sharing and the like? Thank you.
Actually, I would respond this in this way, that it doesn't matter its technical side or its policy side. The engagement is important on every level, and the opportunity is given to everyone. We have examples of fellows who are now working in the technical team of ICANN itself. And we have a lot of fellows who are now part of the community working for the technical activity, like technical questions, and cover them. As Leon said, we have lawyers, we have civil society representative, we have technical people. They are in every sphere of this multi-stakeholder model. It all depends on the passion, on the level of engagement and the commitment, the willingness to be a part of it. And this community is only welcomes the participation. That's how I can respond. And with that, I would like to thank the board to be here with us, from all of us. Fellows.